Hi, my name is Pincu, and I'm here to present FULE, Functionality, Usability, Look and Feel, and Evaluation Methodology. As an introduction, a few words about me and my background. I'm a PhD student at the Ben-Gurion University of the Negev and an industrial designer specialized in medical device design. For the past 12 years, I've been the head designer at my own design firm. During that time, I found myself searching for methods to ensure the design process would produce optimal products and would not be biased due to subjective opinions or moods of the designer. Product design process is driven by a certain need, leading to the development of a new product. The design process may deal with a brand new product or just with improving and updating an existing one, according to evolving and changing demands. It can be improving technological skill, such as accuracy, speed, etc., in the human factor level, improving ergonomics and usability, or in the aesthetic level, creating a new look and feel, part of a new branding process. Every product is unique. Therefore, every design process would be a bit different and would use different tools, advisors, and research methods relevant to its specific needs. However, using a structured methodology will lead to a more organized process and a more optimal product. Many product management and development methodologies have been evolved over the years to initiate an effective product design process that meets changing market needs and demands. Some methodologies focus on a narrow part of the process, dealing with ergonomics design only or the aesthetic aspects of the product, while others take a more holistic approach and observe the process throughout its length and breadth. FULE is narrow and long. It focuses on the role and responsibility of the designer in the product development process of a new medical system, starting at the very beginning of the process and ending only after the product is already in use by real users. Our primary aim of this research is to define a new medical equipment design methodology. Field methodology was developed in order to help designers to design usable and aesthetic products. To demonstrate the advantages of the field methodology, we will present a case study of the design process of a complementary autonomic breathing system by Hospitec. According to the FULE methodology, the development process is constructed by 4 user-centered design phases of evaluation and design. The first 3 are formative assessment, aimed to define the future product in all 3 aspects: product functionality, usability, and look and feel. The final phase is a summative evaluation that may affect the product itself or provide guidelines for product implementation, marketing, and support. Field methodology is built like a pyramid, meaning there is a clear hierarchy. The functionality phase deals with the system itself. What was the motive for the specific product? What is the offered technical solution? After laying the foundation and setting an initial framework considering all technical and functional requirements, it is time to go ahead and proceed to the second phase, usability, which is all about the users. Having a primary concept for the intended device, the designer can proceed to the next phase, the look and feel of the product. The final phase is an evaluation of the whole process. The overall goal of the FULE methodology is to design products with high usability and affordance. By applying the methodology, the designer is guided to reason every decision made in the design process. Thus, decisions are not biased due to the subjective opinion of the designer. In addition, the methodology provides bases to resolve conflicting demands, providing visual tools for discussion and alternative selection that would lead to a better product design. To demonstrate the advantages of the FULE methodology, we will present a case study of the design process of a complementary autonomic breathing system by Hospitec. The system is aimed to prevent ventilator-associated pneumonia, VAP, in respiratory patients. The design process started while the company already had a first functional prototype, which was aimed to evaluate the reduction of VAP occurrences. Usability issues that were not taken into consideration during the first prototype development process result in challenges to operate the system in hospitals, as nursing staff refuses to operate the system due to its complexity. We used FULE in the development of the second generation that was aimed to improve user interaction. Following FULE methodology, the product was evaluated while it is used by Rambam Medical Center nursing staff for its easy to use, look and feel, and trust. I will start explaining the different phases, demonstrating each one using the case study, starting with functionality. The functionality phase deals with the system motive and the suggested solution. The designer's responsibility is to learn and understand the functionality and requirements of the system. This phase is divided into three subphases of learning and designing and results in an initial framework. The next slide will demonstrate the functionality phase in our case study. The need for mechanical ventilation is the primary reason for admission to intensive care units. Critical aspects in the management of mechanically ventilated patients are related to unsuitable cuff pressure of the endotracheal tube. Underinflation of the cuff may lead to air leakage and improper ventilation. In addition, contaminated subglottic secretions may aspirate into the lungs and can lead to ventilator-associated pneumonia. On the other hand, overinflation of the cuff may cause local mechanical injuries. The anapnoguard system prevents these complications by integrating two solutions, using automatic inflation and deflation of the cuff pressure based on continuous monitoring of CO2 leaks above the cuff, which indicates air leakage from the lungs. When the system detects CO2, it inflates the cuff, and when a leak is not detected, the cuff is gradually deflated. This enables ensuring tracheal sealing at minimal cuff pressure. The second solution is simultaneous and controlled rinsing and evacuation of subglottic secretions from above the cuff. The second phase, usability, is all about the users. This phase is divided into four subphases: learning, analyzing, defining, and ideating. The importance of this phase in the product development process, and especially in the design of medical systems, is very high. The understanding that we can prevent the user from making mistakes, or at least minimizing them, is a relatively new recognition. In the past, it was customary to resolve usage faults by adding a warning to the operator manuals or a warning sticker on the product itself. It took a while to recognize that if a trained user had a mistake with a device, it is likely that there is a design problem rather than a user problem. We started this phase by examining the functional prototype in search of possible failures and risks. Failures were encoded on the scale between 1 and 4, when the lowest rank is 1, frustration, and the highest is 4, injury. Among the findings were deficiencies in both the design of the system itself and in the disposable unit's design. For example, the buttons were set aligned, the same size, shape, and color, without any hierarchy, and with no distinguishing between urgent and non-urgent actions. In addition, the connectors were placed without thinking about the wiring direction, connecting the various lines and creating a tangle of pipelines. Also, the suction connector is red, while other devices uses yellow coding to mark suction. At the next step, we conducted observation at Rambam Hospital, watching the functional system at work. In addition, we interviewed the nurses and other medical staff to understand their needs, expectations, and requirements for the future product. The next step was creating usage scenarios for each possible human-system interaction. Every scenario included all possible failures that may occur due to inappropriate usage. These usage scenarios indicated that the system dimensions and weight making its mobility in the hospital almost impossible and interrupting the staff. Nurses claimed it is sometimes hard to cope with the complex assembly of the system before connecting a new patient, which requires collecting various components located in different rooms, sometimes unavailable at the moment needed. The assembling phase itself appears to be confusing for the staff and has a big potential to lead the user to a mistake. It seems that at this stage, the system was a burden for the staff instead of making their life easier. The data collected by the observation and the interviews were used to define the future system. Having a primary concept for the intended device that meets all the functional requirements and leads the user to the correct usage by placing all interfaces and indicators in their optimal location and taking all usability requirements in consideration, the designer can proceed to the next phase, the look and feel of the product. Although the aesthetic design phase is often perceived as the more intuitive and creative phase, some are trying to make it more logical and organized in order to make the design process more rational. In 2002, Joy Benedek and Trish Miner developed a method used to check the emotional response and desirability of a design or product called Microsoft Reaction Cards. They created a desirability toolkit using cards with different product reaction words and phrases written on each one, representing a broad spectrum of options and dimension of desirability. For example, accessible, annoying, familiar. Using that tool provides information that can be analyzed to define different designs or different users group. The look and feel phase in FULE methodology is based on Benedek and Miner's cards. In order to have more quantitative values to emotional elements, we created 3 medical devices inspiration boards. Each board contains pictures of medical devices having common visual characteristics. In an ongoing process, describing boards were attached to each board to describe the emotions and reactions of potential users. Using these boards, we created 3 abstract diagrams to define guidelines for designing medical devices according to the desired user experience. For example, if we would like to achieve a medical, simple, clean look and feel, we would go for the one on the top. But if we would like to have a friendlier look, more inviting, we would choose the one on the bottom. For a gadgety, active, more precise look, we may choose the middle one. In our case study, after consulting with our focus group, the look and feel chosen for this product was inviting, friendly, and simple. Our research showed the main problem of the functional system is its complexity. Usage scenarios of both a new patient connection and the preparation of the system for the next patient were very long, complex, and with high potential for user mistakes and failures. It was decided to replace the entire ticket of tubes with one disposable connection kit, containing all the tubes according to the correct exit direction. A large screen in the front of the product accompanies the user in the stages of connection and preparation and provides information throughout the device operating. A relatively large screen selection resulted from the need to display the cuff pressure so that it would be shown anywhere in the room. We chose to locate the screen on a large door that covers the entire front of the product and hides the cassette and tubes so that the product remains clean and pleasing to the eye. The only remaining key in the front of the product is the standby key. The remaining non-urgent keys move to the back screen on the touchscreen. The power button is located below the screen sunken. Besides the screen that provides the system activity information, 2 additional LEDs have been added to indicate device status. The system contains, beside the control unit, 2 additional disposable components, the anapnogard endotracheal tube and the disposable connection kit. The final phase is a summative assessment of the system in its natural environment, examining the final product to assess whether the product meets the goals and expectations set at the beginning. At this stage, the 3 basic factors of the product will be tested. Does the product perform well? Is it convenient and clear for users? Does it allow a smooth and error-free workflow? Is it addressing the target users? Is the product expressing the desired message? Furthermore, this step may help make decisions about how to embed the product, both in the aspect of planning user training solutions and in the marketing aspect, defining sales and distribution routes. The tools used to perform this phase include questionnaires, interviews, and observation at the time of use by intended users. The evaluation phase was conducted at the cardiac surgery's ICU at Rambam Medical Center among the nursing staff who were using the anapnogard system, and in parallel at Kaplan Medical Center where there is no similar autonomic system, hence the team must manually perform the action that the anapnogard system is automatically performing. At first, 6 semi-structured interviews were conducted. Participants were 6 volunteered nurses, 3 males and 3 females, who had experienced the work using an apnoguard system. The interviews took place in Rambam Medical Center. The participants were asked to share their knowledge, opinions, and perceptions regarding ventilator-associated pneumonia, an apnoguard system, its usability and appearance, and autonomic medical systems in general. All interviews were recorded and transcribed in full. The data was analyzed using thematic analysis. The second stage was conducted in 2 different groups. Group A, nursing staff who were using the anapnoguard system in Rambam Medical Center, and Group B, nursing staff who were not familiar with the anapnoguard system in Kaplan Medical Center. The second group had a short training process that was almost similar to routine training procedure provided at introduction of the anapnoguard system in hospital unit for the first time. Following training, participants were asked to fill the questionnaires based on their impressions. This graph is a comparison of the 2 hospitals. It compares between users who had real interaction with the system and those who had training but never used the system itself. Participants had filled 2 personal questionnaires regarding their attitude toward technology and their tendency to adopt new technologies. To evaluate the aesthetic perception of the system, the participants were asked to rank their impression of the visual appearance of the system and its GUI. We used describing words such as friendly, innovative, pleasing to the eye, etc. To evaluate trust, we used 24 statements regarding general trust in the system and trust in specific actions. Participants were asked to rank their level of agreement for each one. We can see that the results were almost identical, except for the trust level that was higher among the inexperienced users. To evaluate usability, we used a standard SUS scale and a designated questionnaire, asking the respondents to describe their degree of comfort and clarity of use for each of the system's operating phases. It was found that women rated the comfort and clarity of the use slightly higher than men, and the scores given were mostly high, above 4. However, the system SUS score has not been high on average, and we can see that there is a clear distinction between males and females. The system's design language was defined in collaboration with real users focus group in order to reach these users and establish trust and cooperation. In both hospitals, women have rated the system's design with higher score than men. Participants have rated the visual appearance as pleasing to the eye, medical, and reliable. Female nurses had perceived the system design as friendly in higher score than male nurses. Women had expressed a lower level of trust toward the anapnoguard system in every tool used for the study. Women had expressed a lower level of trust toward technologies in general, yet they indicated they are adopting and using new technologies more often than men or equal to them. This graph shows the correlation between gender and trust in the best way. Our interviews revealed all women are checking the system frequently. 2 out of 3 also noted that they still perform manually tasks like rinsing even while the system is running. The third noted that she is no longer doing so, but it doesn't feel right. Among the male nurses, we found a definite link between the system's SUS score and the user's trust. These findings match the conclusion of previous studies that found a definite link between the two. The trust level expressed by men in both hospitals was almost identical. Experience with the system didn't change their perception. On the other hand, among the female nurses, we found differences between nurses that had an experience with the system at Rambam Medical Center and those who had only received the training procedure at Kaplan Medical Center. Kaplan's nurses expressed a higher level of trust. It appears that the factors affecting the women's trust are different. Some of them can be inferred from the interviews that were conducted, where 2 main topics were raised. First is the understanding of system mechanism. Participants were asked to explain how the anapnoguard system works. It seems that all the male nurses understood the system rationale. All of them were familiar with the CO2 sensor, as opposed to the female nurses who did not know how to explain what is happening. And perhaps that's the reason they found it difficult to trust the system. One of the men also pointed it himself when he was asked if he trusts the system, saying, "First I was skeptical, but after understanding its rationale, I trust it. The level of trust may be affected by the level of the system's understanding. We may find another explanation for the different results between males and females in their perceptions of the human factor. In our interviews, we asked the participants if they see a future where autonomous systems will replace all human nurses. All said no, but the reasons were very different. The women spoke in terms of compassion and contact. It is important for the patient that he will have someone to hold his hand. The word communication has been repeated in all three interviews. Without a doubt, patients need to communicate with a person. Among the male nurses, the reasons were related to the human brain. Nothing can compare with the human mind in understanding the overall picture. There is a need for a person to integrate all the information. The results can help the company improve the user's trust, first by applying changes in the system itself, by adding verbal communication, written or vocal, informing the user regarding its actions in real time, using higher level of transparency, explaining the reason for its actions, and reveal the next action. Second, designing a slightly different training to ensure all users understand the way the system works. FULE methodology has proven itself in creating an organized and reasoned process. The outcome product was evaluated and perceived as pleasing to the eye, medical, reliable, and friendly, with a high usability. This research, or more accurate to say, the specific case study, however, is subject to several limitations. The first is the sample size, and the second is the subjective research tools. Thank you very much for listening.